global temperatures to rise much higher than were expected. 2,000 scientists and other dignitaries were gathered in Copenhagen, Denmark this week to learn of the latest climate change science at what experts are now calling the End of the World Conference due to the alarming new data. One example included previous predictions of a 2 degrees Celsius rise in the world's temperature, which now appear to be severely underestimated. Conference organizer and University of Copenhagen Oceanography Professor Catherine Richardson stated, "We can forget about the 2 degrees Celsius. We are now facing the situation where we have to avoid a 5 to 6 degrees Celsius rise in temperature."
The IPCC, the UN climate panel, got it right. And it turns out that we're on their worst case trajectory, or the worst case scenario that they defined, or maybe even worse. And the good news is, it turns out that we have an awful lot of tools in our toolbox already that we can use to immediately begin to combat climate change.
Supreme Master Television asked participating scientists what tools they believed are the most readily effective.
It's only going to be solved if the people of the world demand a solution. And one way of demanding a solution is to begin by changing your own life and reducing your consumption. Reducing our meat production is probably the single most effective thing that individuals can do immediately to reduce their greenhouse gas impact.
It would be one of the almost silver bullets, really, because it would be very good for the planet.
We are grateful, Professors Richardson, Jameson, and Schellnhuber, and all other scientist participants, for alerting us to the frightening new data demonstrating the rapid pace of climate change, and for sharing with us the most effective solution. Through our combined efforts, may all people wake up to the need to act now by being veg to save the planet.
In an interview with Supreme Master Television, Dr. T. Colin Campbell, renowned nutrition researcher and international best-selling author, informed us of very new figures from the World Bank, stating that, in fact, the livestock industry's generation of total greenhouse gases exceeds not 18%, but 50%.
And I just had some information from my friends at the World Bank just recently that the new figures now indicate that at least half of the greenhouse gases that are up there now, not the 15 or 20%, at least half, and maybe considerably more, are due to livestock production.
Save our planet. Runaway explosive gas from a warming Arctic. At the Copenhagen Climate Congress this past week, climate researcher Dr. Philippe Sieyès of the French Laboratory for Climate Sciences and the Environment warned that just a 2 degrees Celsius rise in average world temperature could instigate a carbon time bomb in the vast regions of Arctic permafrost. The sustained warming of the soil could initiate bacterial composting, leading to a cycle of accelerated temperature increase and the possibly explosive, fatal release of billions of tons of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere.
In a recent phone interview with Supreme Master Television, Dr. Isabel Simpson of the University of California, Irvine, USA, shared her views and concern about the current situation of thawing in the Arctic.
You know, a lot of the climate change feedback scenarios involve methane. You know, there's all this methane trapped in the permafrost in the Arctic. And you know, you already get research coming out saying, okay, the lakes are thawing in Siberia and you're getting all this methane released from these thaw lakes. There's so much methane trapped under the permafrost, you know, orders of magnitude more than what's in the atmosphere now. And the concern is, at what point does that methane start being released under melting scenarios? What would keep me awake at night is, you know, thinking about the future and where are the methane reservoirs, how stable are they, and you know, how fast is the change occurring in the Arctic, and can we get carbon dioxide under control before something catastrophic happens?
Dr. Simpson, Sieyès and colleagues, we thank you for alerting us to the dire situation caused by the warming atmosphere to our Earth. We pray that the world's citizens quickly transition to a kinder, more considerate lifestyle to preserve all life on our beautiful globe. During a video conference with Supreme Master Television staff members in California, USA, in January 2009, Supreme Master Qinghai revealed through her insight and inner contact with inhabitants of Mars some truths about their history of climate change. Only a tiny minority had survived the runaway events, whose beginnings were similar in many ways to the current situation on Earth.
The mass extinction came, they die. Not only human beings and there were the animals, also they die by two main poisonous gases, namely hydrogen sulfide and nitrous oxide. plus methane at the third course. But hydrogen sulfide and methane from the livestock began to warm the climate and then triggered more other gases from the ocean, from permafrost and glacier around the planet, just like what is happening to our planet right now. As the destruction happened too fast, no one can help anyone. Only 0.2% of them escaped, around 2 million, into the underground caves. And that's how they survived. They retain the history of what happened so that the descendants know how to take care of what they have and not to be careless and not to be so destructive anymore, but more virtuous and spiritual.
Environment ministers meet researchers in Antarctica following their arrival in South Africa to discuss the urgency of climate change. Environment ministers and policymakers from more than a dozen nations traveled to Antarctica, where they convened with the US-Norwegian team of scientists returning from a research expedition. With Antarctica containing more than 90% of the world's ice, its possible melt presents one of the most frightening warming threats. Experts are now citing a staggering 70 meters of potential sea level rise if all of Antarctica were to melt.
Glaciers in Greenland, also in Antarctica and other places, are moving much faster than we've previously thought. That kind of dynamics is not accounted for because it's not fully understood yet, but as is, we may have a higher sea level rise than IPCC stated a year ago.
Ice shelves are good indicators of climate change because they respond not only to air temperature on the surface, which the rest of the ice sheet responds to, but also to warming in the ocean underneath. The bad news is that when you break the ice shelf away, take that away, all of those glaciers accelerate very rapidly, flowing into the ocean. If that happens elsewhere in Antarctica, where there are even larger glaciers, we'll see very sudden jumps in the rate of sea level rise.
The scenario facing scientists, which now takes Antarctic ice melt into account, is certainly alarming.
Consume 50 gigatons of carbon every year, about the same as all the plants and trees on land.
Scientists at Australia's University of New South Wales and Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organisation have recently discovered that a catastrophic tipping point may soon be reached, causing severe ocean acidification to occur.
Global atmospheric levels of CO2 are currently estimated at 385 parts per million.
Researchers state that we are quickly approaching the 450 parts per million level of CO2 that would drastically affect oceanic organisms.
A loss in oceanic organisms would render the oceans unable to effectively absorb carbon.
This would in turn lead to an exponential increase in global warming. Save our oceans. Save our planet. Be veg. Go green.
For more urgent details, please visit www.suprememastertv.com.